Hi guys, this is Advanced Music Theory, Lesson 4. We're going to do some exercises in chord identification, specifically 7th chords. We just talked about 7th chords in our lesson, and we're going to use some of these musictheory.net exercises to practice recognizing them. So, go to the exercises section in the top menu, and under staff identification, we're going to use chord identification. Let's take a look. Now, remember that in the tools section of musictheory.net, you can use the pop-up keyboard tool. It could be helpful for you guys to use it. I've already opened it, so I have it up here in another window. You may want to open the keyboard when you're trying this out for the first time. The keyboard can be helpful in figuring out the chords. So, we are going to go to the settings first because I want to make sure that we adjust the exercise to do exactly what we want. We're going to use treble clef for today. We might try bass clef another time, but we're going to use treble clef for now. Let's keep this range. That's not very important. You could change that range if you want, but it's good to keep a wide range because 7th chords kind of take up a fair amount of room. So don't make it too narrow. Let's try, let's do natural so that we just have the accidentals written next to the notes. All right, this is where I wanted to get at. We are going to uncheck the triads. So I want to just do the dominant 7, major 7, minor 7. We didn't cover that one in the lesson, so maybe we'll leave that out. Maybe I'll make sure to cover that one later. But in the lesson, we did dominant 7, major 7, minor 7, half diminished 7, and fully diminished. We didn't talk about augmented 7th and augmented major, which maybe we'll cover these 3 in a different lesson. But let's start with these. Okay, we're not going to do inversions for now. We're going to keep them in root position. And if you remember what root position meant, that meant the first degree of the scale, or first degree of the chord, is going to be at the bottom as at the bass note. All right, that's good enough. Let's try this out. All right, so when we have a 7th chord, we have to figure out how it's stacked. Luckily here, we don't need to worry about inversions. We know that this is in root position. So we need to figure out kind of what the intervallic relationships are between the notes to figure out what kind of chord that is. Let's start with the triad first, which, remember, the triad are the 3 notes at the bottom in root position. We have D natural, we have F sharp. That is a major 3rd. Let's go to the keyboard so that I can show you that. D natural, F sharp. So major 3rd is 4 semitones. 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so we have a major 3rd. We already know that this is going to be a major triad. We cannot have a minor triad at this point. So some of these 7th chords are already not going to apply here. The next note is A natural. So F sharp, A. That's a perfect 5th above the root D, A. A minor 3rd above the 3rd degree. So that's 3 semitones. 1, 2, 3. So just remember there are different ways you can think about the intervals. And so we have a perfect 5th and a major 3rd. That's a major triad. And then the 7th is going to be C sharp. So C sharp is here. So we have D, F sharp, A, C sharp. Now notice that after the major triad, we can either have a minor 7th or a major 7th the minor seventh would make the dominant seventh chord, and the major seventh would make the major seventh chord. All the other chords need a minor third or a minor triad, or a minor third at least between the root and the third degree in order to work. So we can already discard minor seventh, half diminished seventh, and diminished seventh. So how do we choose between dominant seventh and major seventh? If you remember, and if you need to remember, refer to the chart at the end of the lesson. The difference between dominant 7 and major 7 is going to be that the dominant 7 has a minor 7th from root to the final note, and the major 7th is going to have a major 7 interval between the root and the top note. Now, C sharp, D natural, and C sharp, that's a major 7th, because if you look closely, C sharp is a half step below the next D. That will be our octave. So half step below the octave is going to be a major 7th. And if you want to be more specific, a major 7th is 11 semitones. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Remember that the octave is 12 semitones. That's when we complete the octave. So I'm just giving you guys a few different ways to think about it. I typically don't like to think about it in terms of that many semitones, just because it's a bigger distance. I like to think of the distance between the leading tone and the next octave, or the minor 7th and the next octave. That's a smaller distance. It's a little bit easier for me to think about. I also think of F sharp, A. The distance between the 5th degree and the 7th degree in this case is a major 3rd. A, C sharp. Okay, so all that leads us to the point that this is a major 7th chord. So there you have it. So let's try the next ones a little bit faster. We start in B natural. We have D natural, which is, that's a minor 3rd. So we are already in the territory of these 3 chords. We can't have a minor 3rd in dominant 7 and major 7. So B, D natural, D natural, F natural, F natural. So this is a minor 3rd, D, F. Note that this is also a diminished 5th, D, F. So we're getting into diminished territory here. This could either be a half diminished or a fully diminished chord. Because the half diminished and the full diminished both have a diminished triad at the bottom, which is what we have here. D natural, F natural. Final note is A flat. So F natural, A flat. So this is a minor 3rd. F flat, A flat. And if you look at this, A natural would be a whole step apart from B natural. So that A natural would have been our minor 7th, which would have been what we needed for the half diminished. But here we have A flat, which means that we have a diminished 7th interval. So B natural, A flat is a diminished 7th interval. That means that we have a full diminished chord, because we have diminished triad and diminished 7th. So this is a diminished 7th chord. Cool. So I want to point out something. You may have noticed that B natural, A flat, is a diminished 7th, but it also could be considered a major 6th if you change the enharmonic spelling of A flat to G sharp. So B, G sharp is a major sixth. It's the same number of half steps. But in this case, we go from B to G sharp. But in the case of diminished 7, we go from B to A flat. And if you notice A flat, the next letter after A is B. And that's why this is a diminished 7 and not a major sixth. Okay, so I just want you to notice that so that you can start seeing how these enharmonic spellings come into the picture. This is really the reason why enharmonic spellings are needed and why they're important and why they make sense. It has to do with keys. Okay, so we have C natural, E natural, G natural, B natural. So if we know anything about C major, is that C major is an all natural key. So we know that this is a major triad. C, E, G, or no, I was off by a half step. C, E, G. So we know that's a major triad. We're looking at dominant 7 and major 7 at this point. And finally, B natural up top. And that is going to be B natural. That's a major 7, because if you look closely, B natural is a half step below the next C. So that's a leading tone. Just remember, this term leading tone is a clue here, because the only 7th chord that has a leading tone is the major 7th chord. The only one from this group. There are other 7th chords that have a leading tone, but not any of this, other than the major 7th. So that's gonna be our choice here. Cool. Let's do a couple more, and then you guys can try as many as you want at home. So D natural, F natural, G flat, A flat, and C natural. So let's take a look. D, F, that's a minor third. A flat, that's another minor third, which means that we have a diminished 5th from D. D, A flat, D, A flat, and then C, C. So we now have D, F, A flat, C. So C here is a whole step below the next D above. So it's not a leading tone because it's not a half step below, it's a whole step below. So it's a minor 7th from the bottom D. So the chord that stacks a diminished triad and a minor 7 is a half diminished, because the other alternative would have been a diminished 7th, would have been a half step below the minor 7, which would have been C flat. So it would have been C flat. So F, A flat, C. That's going to be the half diminished. Let's do the last one. So D, F natural, A flat, C flat. All right, so let's go with the keyboard. C, F natural, that's a minor third. A flat, another minor third. We have a diminished triad now. Diminished triad. And finally, D flat. Remember that D flat is the same as B natural in terms of pitch. It's just the harmonic spelling is different. So this is going to be our next note. So we have D, F, A flat, B flat, C flat. And as you can see, this is very similar to the previous example. But in the previous example, we had C natural. That was the half diminished. And now we have the fully diminished, because we have that diminished 7th. We've brought down C natural down to C flat. So D, F, A flat, C flat. That's our fully diminished 7 D. Okay, so as you can see, figuring out these chords is pretty simple if you follow these rules. It takes a little practice to get very good at it and get quick at it, but follow these rules, and remember, if you forget the combination of triads and intervals, refer to the chart in the lesson that we covered earlier. Okay, so just practice this at home as much as you want, and remember to adjust the settings so that you only get the 7th chords. Okay. All right. This is it for now. See you guys later. Bye.